show up.
Yeah, people show up.
They do. They do. They don't. They don't. I really don't care.
They will.
Give it a few minutes.
So dumb. Streaming is like, it is not an exact science. I'll tell you what.
No, it isn't.
I mean, not like YouTube makes it any easier, but
So, what have you been up to, Eric? Besides the obvious.
well, the podcast stuff has been taking up a lot of time, and just personal life getting in the way. I usually have all this time to sit around and do things and test Linux and just kind of do whatever I want. And my time has not been my own recently, so it's kind of frustrating in a way.
It's
But,
almost like you have to adult.
yeah, it happens to the best of us. So, but it's been good though. I mean, it's forcing me to focus on things that I actually want to get done instead of just. So for one thing, I haven't been distro hopping because it's a colossal time suck, and it's fun and I enjoy doing it. But good Lord, just, and I know depending on how you have it set up. So if you have it so that you can just move everything over, or if you're reusing your home folder, I don't like to do that though, because it gets a little too messy for me.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm usually using a different desktop environment, a different distribution entirely. So they might be using different systems and things like that. So
I hear you. Well, it's like I really haven't been distro hopping much either. Like that's why I really haven't been on Biddle much, just because like I haven't had the time. Unfortunately, the workstation I think is going to have to require a fresh coat of paint with Manjaro, but that's I think more due to the hardware change that I'm doing, so not so much the actual Manjaro. Because I just ordered two 480 gig SSDs for the dual drives. So
good, man. Yeah.
and
So I have a 1 terabyte data drive that is about 600 gigs of VirtualBox machines.
dear Lord,
Yeah, it's kind of silly. But you know what? What's great? So there's a couple reasons that I do that. One is to just be able to test things, but I'm also in groups like Kubuntu support, or just like different forums. And if someone asks a question about like, on MX Linux, if I go to do this, how do I do that? It's I can just go spin up the machine and take a look. So I learn a lot that way, and yeah, it's interesting. But it's a lot of overhead.
a lot, just a bit. Yeah. Well, it's like I don't know. Like I just got to the point now where it's just like, all right, the drive that I have in here has been functional, but the read write speeds aren't enough for streaming. So that's where like my bottleneck is.
Gotcha.
So like, especially because I tried doing 1080 60, like that's my preferred stream rate, and I can't do that on a 5400 or 7200 RPM HDD, like reliably anyway, with trying to access like video game stuff, and it just doesn't work. It bottlenecks.
Yeah, I gotcha.
So it was like, okay, we'll solve that problem, and I'll just buy two of these $45 480 gig drives.
Well, what's great is that even inexpensive SSDs, like it really doesn't matter, because you're going to get good enough throughput. Even if you're only in the 500 megabyte a second range, I mean, that's still so much faster than a spinning disk. And if you're going to run them in a RAID, or
I haven't decided yet. Because this machine is a works it's an HP EliteBook. I just did a review on it actually. It's an E760W. So I can technically take out the DVD drive / whatever drive and put another bay in if I wanted to. So I could have 3 bays.
Gotcha.
But I actually like having the Blu-ray drive.
Yeah.
So, well, the weird thing is when I bought this, they didn't specify that this had a Blu-ray drive in it. So
Okay.
I just got it expecting a DVD drive, and I was looking through like I think it was a Presario, I think, or one of the DVD writing programs, and
Versero, I think it is. Yeah.
and it's like it ends up saying like BDR, and I'm like or BRD. I was like Blu-ray. Like what? I don't remember that.
Now, have you had any issues with? So I've read that I was going to get a Blu-ray drive, and for this new build I did with Verizon, but I kept reading that decryption is really tough on Linux, and that there's certain players like. So I mean, what I like to do is rip DVDs and then use like MB or something like that to serve them. And so I've just read that Blu-ray, for whatever reason, so have you had issues with that, or?
I personally haven't. Hi, Michael. Um, I haven't, but I usually use like Make MKV to do my stuff. So like,
Okay.
I don't know if that does something different because it is a proprietary app and all the other stuff. I think.
That's the one where you have to go get the new code every month or something.
Yeah, it's something like that. It's like a 30-day.
Been in beta for 10 years.
Yeah, but it works really well.
Right.
So like, it's a more up to date Handbrake, I guess, or like it's like a Linux version of DVD Fab, basically. If you want to go back old school.
Yeah, so instead of like Handbrake's going to decrypt it on the fly, whereas that Make MKV is really, you get the MKV folder structure and the file out of it, and that, so it's putting out as though it's the image of the disk. So I used that for a while before. So Handbrake, there was something with live DVD CSS that wasn't working for a period of time. Because so what I would do is when I traveled a lot for work, I would get the discs from Netflix back before they did streaming even.
I already.
And and then I would rip the discs themselves, and then so when I traveled, I would have them on my tablet or whatever, and I was using Plex, and I would just sync Plex stuff, and that all worked really well. I mean, it was a lot of work. It took time and everything, but yeah. And then at some point, I was able to figure out Handbrake, and it got it working, so I didn't have to use Make MKV anymore. And
In fairness, I can't say whether or not I've Handbrake will do Blu-ray on Linux. I haven't tried it, so it might. I don't know.
mm-hmm.
So just
So, but you're not trying to play them. You don't have a player. You're actually just taking Blu-rays and ripping them out to a file.
yeah. I rip them out to a file. Then I usually use like VLC because of the MKV support that's built in, so you can play with the file structure and all that stuff as you need to. So like all your chapters and all that stuff are preserved. And
Do you do like a media server or anything like that?
no, I do like this weird like here's the local HTPC, and that's what the local HTPC is for.
Gotcha.
I'm very like I don't need to do networking and all that stuff for me. My needs are very simplistic. Hey, movie, go to Drive, and I don't care after that. Then the frisbee can go away.
Yeah. Well, so I do it a lot for like my daughter, where so she'll either get discs from the library, or we'll get movies from somewhere where I've got a library of like all of her kids' movies set up so that she can get in there and watch them. So it works out really well because MB and Plex and like all those media server systems are pretty easy to use, and so she can get in and find what she needs. And the other nice thing is you can set ratings and filter out. So I've got all of my action movies and horror movies and all that goofy stuff that I don't want her to see, and she only sees her list of stuff. So and I just switched to MB not long ago because Plex, I've been a Plex Pass subscriber for a long time, but they changed their Roku player. It took a lot of features out of it, and it kind of bummed me out. And I thought, my vote with my dollar, so I'm not happy with what they're doing, and I said as much on the forum, and they don't really care about it. So, oh well. Moving
I,
on.
I was gonna say the way I vote with my dollar is I use Cody.
Mm. Yeah, and Cody's great. I mean, I don't know why I never really jumped on the Cody bandwagon. Plex was just so easy for me at the time.
To, how do I say this and not piss off everybody in the process? To me, Plex is if you want to have a server.
Oh
Like,
yeah,
like,
absolutely.
like you have the local Plex player and all that crap too, but like the whole spiel about it is to have like a NAS or something similar or a QNAP or any of that kind of stuff. You know, network attack storage stuff, and you just that's what it's for. Like to me, Cody is more of the appliance mentality.
Mm-hmm.
Like you set it up, you put stuff on it, and you just that's what it is. You customize it, and you're done.
Well, funny enough, so I was a big Xbox Media Player fan because that was sort of the roots of Cody,
Mm-hmm.
and I used that for quite a while, both on the computer in like full screen mode. And I mean, that was sort of the early advent of the 10-foot UI and all that sort of stuff. And yeah, so I used that for many years. And then I think when Plex first came out, I don't know what it was. I was having some kind of issues, and I just wanted to set up a media server. And my wife from my wanted movies, and it was just easier. And I think that's what it came down to. Is Plex put a big focus on, like you said, on the server side of just
Mm-hmm.
making it easy for people to set up a media server, and then they had clients for all the mobile devices and the Roku and all that stuff. So yeah.
Which I totally can appreciate. Like I said, for me, on the little, I don't want to say ancient side, but I'm also a little weird because like look at the technology that I do use. I mean, I use weird distros.
Well, and it's something to say. I mean, both of us even consider a CD, DVD, Blu-ray drive. Like, I don't even think people care about them anymore, honestly,
And
because
that
everybody streams everything. Or if they don't stream it, they just go download it from somewhere.
which is sad, sad,
Yeah.
sad, sad.
Well, I mean, I still find that I know that DVD is only 720p, and it's not. But I don't have a huge TV, and most of my movies, it's not like they're big, important movies like that need to be in super high definition. So, I if I find a DVD at a garage sale, or at get something from the library, like that's usually just good enough for me. So,
My biggest pro this is the biggest problem I had with in comparison to like Plex, which is really good at like the metadata scraping and all the other stuff. So
hmm.
Cody is good, but you have to manually do it all.
Oh, really?
Well, there's ways to get around it. Like there are like different websites and stuff that you can plug into that will download it. But
Mm.
if you don't have the right metadata in the folders, it doesn't.
The file naming was always a pain in the rear. So there was actually a little utility I had. Geez, I don't remember the name of it, but so anytime I ripped a DVDs, I would do the naming. I thought I would do the naming properly, but if it didn't find it, there was this little utility that I could run that would go out and actually search against the movie database and some of
Mhm.
those other ones, and get the right title and metadata and embed it. And same thing with subtitles, getting subtitles and stuff like that. So yeah, there's MB seems to have really overcome a lot of that. I haven't had many issues with it, finding the metadata and properly identifying. I had a couple, but they are sort of like independent movie kind of things that, I kind of get why they wouldn't be found. So
Yeah, it's kind of weird how that works, isn't it? But
yeah.
so moving on to that, let's talk about the your new content, Eric. I'm a little more intrigued about that. My
Well, I have to say I'm gonna jump in ahead of you here and just say that you kind of you started off this whole process on Sunday with being a guest host on Destination Linux, which I thought was pretty cool.
yeah. Let's not talk about that surprise of like, hey, you have no prep. Enjoy.
Yeah, well, that is the way of the Destination Linux crew. Like they've done it to me twice now, and both times I've said, I'm gonna be there. You could have just said like an hour ahead of time. uh, but literally one time I didn't even have my headphones on, and I thought I heard Ryan saying my name, and so I put my earbud in, and I'm like, Ryan, are you talking to me? He's like, yeah, you want to be a guest host? I'm like, what? So yeah, they like to spring it on you last second, and then they share their document and they're typing in and saying, okay, you could do this segment, and you're trying to read it, and like there's links in there, so I'm like opening websites and reading, and they're talking, and yeah, it's a you feel pressure because it's a show that people know. You know that a lot of people are going to see it and want and hear it, and you think, God, I don't want to look like an idiot.
Well, in my case, that's too much of a problem anyway because I'm already a jackass. But that's a whole different scenario.
But I think the best part about it was that you did a fantastic job. You had insightful comments, and I think that's really sort of what it's a little bit of a crucible in a way, right? You're kind of thrown into the mix, and you either can
Sink or swim.
right. And I mean, you have enough experience kind of talking about things, and I don't think they would have put you on not having that confidence in you. So
I don't think they would have put me on if they felt I was going to not play by their playground rules. Let's put it that way.
well, of course. Of course, and they could have always edited things out too. I mean, what I thought was hilarious was that Wendell threw out an asshole, which was awesome. I was just like, "Go Wendell!" Like,
And Dark One wasn't the one that did it.
yeah, exactly. You know, it's fantastic.
Well, the great thing is like anytime I post in like the Telegram channel, and someone's doing something stupid, everyone just looks at me expecting to be the one to go off on people.
Right.
Yes, I go off on people quite frequently, usually on YouTube.
It happens.
But I also don't do it as frequently as people seem to think.
No, you really don't. And that's the thing. Like, so, and I've said this before, and I know that you don't like me saying it, but you are honest to a fault, which is fine. I mean, that's what you do, and I think people appreciate that. But you also have the filter of understanding like the present company, what you're trying to do, like who your audience is, like who you're talking to, right? If they're coming to see you specifically on your channel, they know what they're going to get. If you're participating in someone else's content, like you have to play by the rules and do what's expected. And so it's the people who don't do that like, so a couple of the Linux Spotlight interviews where there's been profanity, and you think, like, you know who Rocco is, you know who this community, what this community is about, and like, fine, like you can express yourself, but like it just seems kind of like inconsiderate in a way to me, because it's like you know that that's not appropriate in this setting, but you do it anyway. So
it's almost I might catch flag for this. It's almost disrespectful.
I think it is.
And to me, that's ironic coming from me because let's just be honest. Like, when I criticize people, I am very disrespectful. I will be the first to admit it.
Right. Well, anyway, job well done. And you know what? I've done it twice. I really enjoyed it. And it's sort of segued into the next topic. But it has kind of, in doing that, so I never really had an interest necessarily in doing anything besides YouTube and Biddle and just like streaming every now and then. Just some of the stuff that I've been doing, I'm happy with that. Like, I enjoy the interactions I have with people. That when I get you and Adam and Nate together and the four of us can just chat like that, I think that all is very natural, and it's just good content because it's us talking, and I think that's, so I was never really, I had no aspirations or interest in kind of doing prepared or pre-prepared sort of content beyond, like I said, the YouTube stuff. But in having done the Destination Linux guest hosting a couple times, I thought, and watching it back and just looking at it sort of objectively, just kind of saying, like, if I didn't know who this was and I was listening to them speak, like, so I kind of thought after those appearances, maybe I will look at and doing a podcast or something like that. So anyway, with helping the Destination Linux network get started and helping Michael and Ryan with the web stuff and some of the other stuff, I kind of knew what was coming because I obviously I was helping them get ready for it. And so one of the things that had come up during that time was Nate and I, having guest hosted, and he and I just being good friends and sort of talking. And they were like, well, you guys should do some kind of show. You guys should just work together because we think you do really well together. And so we sort of thought, oh, okay, and that's interesting. And we started talking about it. And what we landed on was, wouldn't it be cool if we did some sort of like recap or sort of review of the week of Destination Linux Network? Because you've got Destination Linux, Ask Noah, Linux for Everyone, This Week in Linux. So you've got all these shows with all of these topics and all this content. And Michael's, This Week in Linux is very fact-based. I mean, he gives some opinion, but I think he does a good job of being very balanced, what he shows. Destination Linux is a little more sort of opinion-based, and there's a lot of strong opinions one way or the other. And then you have guests on, and then Jason, obviously, with his show, has a lot of, he has a very interesting view coming from where he's coming from. And so we just sort of thought this is probably, a good place for us to start. And Nate does have his own podcast. He's been doing Nate's Noodlings, which is really cool. If you haven't listened to it, but it's 10 minutes of just Nate being Nate, which to me is awesome. So, so anyway, we started talking about that, and what we came up with is DLN Extend. And so actually today I put out episode 0. And I don't know if I can paste in your chat or not. Yeah, I can. So it hasn't officially launched because we don't have the page up on DLN DestinationLinux.network. Mr. Adam, there he is. Good to see you, brother. No, look at that. He's shaved. Got a haircut. Look at you, all clean cut. No, my goodness, sir. Oh, it must be the collared shirt.
I am just the same as I always am.
No, I don't know what it is, man. You're looking dapper this evening.
Probably the light blowing out. 1 second.
Maybe. So yeah. So anyways, we did a test recording a couple weeks ago, and we thought it was just going to be a throwaway deal, just because I mean, both of us, we just basically got together with a bunch of topics from the shows, and we're like, okay, what do we do? And we just started talking to each other and recorded it. And then at the end of it, we were just sort of like, okay, well, let's edit it and see how it sounds. And we edited it together. We picked out some music and just stuff and put a little bit of production value behind it. And then we shared it with Ryan and Jason and Zeb and Michael and, just all the Destination Linux guys. And they were all very pleased with it. And so we thought, okay, well, maybe we can go ahead and put this out. And so we recorded the next episode last night, and we got about, you did it. Good job. My daughter lost yet another tooth. She's got none left in the front. You crazy. Here, smile for the camera. Show 'em. Look at that. No teeth. Oh my goodness. Good job. You're very brave. She didn't want to pull it out. She did.
Way to be frightening.
Popsicles help. Yeah, well, it's just in time for Halloween, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Touche.
I told you it would come out. You just had to numb it up a little bit. Good job.
Hated losing teeth as a kid.
Oh, it was, yeah. Absolutely. Well, so anyway, so we've got the first one out. We recorded the last one. We recorded the next one last night. We have like close to 4 hours of just raw audio of us talking, and his kids are hysterical. Like they're young and crazy, and so they're running around in the background, and he's in the basement in the Nate cubicle, right? And so they're upstairs running around, and it's how we edit all of that out. I'm not sure, but so he's been working diligently on editing. And anyway, the bottom line is we're really pleased with what we've put together. It's just us talking, really. And I could talk to Nate, like I could talk to Matt and Adam, and you've seen the four of us be on a podcast together, or be on a stream together and just talk. And that's, I don't know if that's what people are going to like and want to hear, but it feels authentic, and it just feels like us sharing what we find interesting about things. And so hopefully others will get the same vibe, and any kind of feedback we get would be great. And so if you go to Discourse or whatever and just say, hey, you guys suck, or you whatever feedback you have. But yeah, it's interesting. I'm enjoying it.
Yeah, if there's a dislike button, I'll hit it.
I hope so.
Adam, someone tells me you would hit that multiple times if you could.
Yeah,
He has
I'll
different
toy
accounts he
with his
trolls
emotions.
from.
I'll dislike and then undislike and then dislike again.
He'll tease me.
Just to feel like you're multiple dislikes, right? You'll throw one thumbs up in there, just to throw it all off.
Like somehow I'm disliking harder every time.
You're muted.
If it's any consolation, my Linux Spotlight video had a dislike before it had any likes. Jason Evangelo's comment was like, really? Who does that?
I think you know exactly who does that.
Yeah, exactly.
I was going to say, I'm just waiting to see how bad mine's going to be when I get up.
Yeah.
So, something tells me that's going to be about as good as my normal ratio of videos.
There'll be at least one.
If my Pine phone versus Librem 5, and if my other video is any indication, there's going to be at least a third of people who don't like me.
You know what's funny, Matt? I had to say, I listened to the latest Ubuntu podcast, and those guys are usually not critical, but they were hard on purism, and I think people are catching
today,
up
right?
to you on this. Yeah, I think it came out earlier today.
Yeah, I didn't catch that one.
I mean, they basically just took the stance that, right or wrong, whenever people act in that manner, they do a disservice to the entire sort of community of hardware manufacturers and people who are trying to further, Linux on devices. And so if we have to be critical, we try to be supportive, but at the same time, when people do dumb things, we have to.
Yeah. Yeah, I was going to say, for people aren't going to like this, but purism, I can respect it. What their attempt is, the implementation, and for all those that don't expect me to swear right now, sorry, hate to break it to you, it's my channel. It's fucking abysmal. Like, I'm not lying when I say these, like, Todd Weaver, you're an inept project manager.
Well, look, I mean, that Phronix article, that's pretty damning stuff, right? And this isn't from somebody who wouldn't know this, and I think that the motivation is that they're disappointed at how it turned out, right? I mean, he said he joined because he thought it was an idealistic sort of pursuit, and it matched his own ideals. And then once he realized that it wasn't going to be that way, it's very, I mean, I can imagine investing myself into something like that and then finding out like it was all bullshit,
Did I miss something? I mean,
there was a Phronix article that you must not have seen.
Purism's former CFO, one of them.
I think it was the CTO, yeah.
The former CTO talked about what Purism was like as a company from the inside perspective. And he basically the short version was toxic company. Like in the short version. And essentially Lunduke, dumbass, called out saying that the CTO was fired. Well, the CTO had the resignation email that he sent to Todd Weaver, which is the CEO. So, Lunduke, you're putting your PR foot in your own fucking mouth, dumbass.
Is this the case of a company that needs adult supervision, so to speak?
This is a company that I don't think knows what adults are.
I think it is much like many of the personalities that we see in the Linux world. I feel there is a high level of being like disingenuous simply to garner that sort of open source and Linuxy vibe of like, hey, you have to love us because we're supporting your ideals, and and it's kind of disgusting. And what makes me sad most of all is that it's a combination of desperation on some people's part, where they so badly want a device like that and they want it to work, and they're willing to put up with so many rough edges to make that happen, and ultimately they're just being let down and betrayed. I mean, they would have only met people halfway, but I just feel like they went off the rails a long time ago. I mean, what was the whole putting out their hosted office,
the cloud services and
which
stuff,
was
right?
just rebranded open source projects cobbled together. I mean, it wasn't even like and from what I understood, it didn't even work that well. Like they didn't execute on it very well.
I was going to say, because my
Or
understanding,
hiring Lunduke, that was also a mistake.
Well, yeah, I mean, that commercial. I mean, I know you. Personal opinion aside, like people can have different opinions on like what is tasteful and appropriate, especially for like a technology company. I don't care who you are. That commercial was just stupid. It wasn't funny. It wasn't even clever. It was just stupid.
Whoever, and it goes to show that the person in charge of it, there's a reason he doesn't work for SUSE anymore. Homie, you failed as the community manager. Now you're failing as the PR dude. Why am I not surprised?
I mean, if they had done that as a like low budget YouTube, like try to be a viral thing, but it looks like they spent real money on that. And when you think about like the idea that they're saying they have budget issues and like all of the problems they've had with producing the product, and how much did they spend on that? And I get that it's important, and we've talked about marketing and getting the word out. I'm not saying that they shouldn't have put real money behind marketing, but that's what you do.
I agree with what you're saying, Eric. I think there's a difference between putting money towards marketing and putting money towards good marketing.
Yeah, it's one of the few instances where I've seen an ad that's somehow worse than the "What's a Computer" iPad Pro ad.
Yeah, no kidding.
I think that ad makes the Made in California ones that Apple did look like immaculate art.
Yeah,
and those Made in California ones were terribly stupid.
Yeah.
It's like, no, actually, it was built over in Foxconn, but
Yeah.
You were designed in California. I'll give you that one. But so Adam, what's new with you, bud? Let's get off this particular.
I've been playing the Vidya games.
Ooh, what Vidya games?
Mostly Borderlands 3, and I started playing The Outer Worlds.
How's The Outer Worlds? Curious.
It's amazing. It is everything you want it to be, and then some.
Fallout New Vegas in space.
And then some.
Sweet.
Yeah, it's really good. The writing is really good. The story is really good. The characters are awesome. The decisions actually like make you feel like, wow, I both did a good and a bad thing at the same time. Like,
so this isn't a black and white BioWare game.
Nor is it a crappy Bethesda RPG.
But you mean a buggy mess?
Yeah, no bugs, none at all. It's a masterpiece. It is what we all wanted for all these years and never got, and we finally.
So what is the style of game? Is it an RPG kind of game?
It's a first-person RPG, like first-person shooter / RPG.
So kind of like a Fallout.
Yeah, very similar to Fallout. It's some of the same guys who did
Fallout New Vegas.
And what's the setting?
Space.
It's kind of like a pulp space opera, kind of like a Buck Rogers, or it has. Have you ever seen Firefly?
Hmm.
It is very
I
similar
love
to
Firefly.
Firefly. It is
Oh, that's
very similar
awesome.
to Firefly.
I was gonna say, take Fallout New Vegas for like gameplay and story. From what I've seen, like stuff actually matters,
Okay.
and put it in Firefly.
Yeah, pretty much.
Nice.
My
And,
only
is it-
my only gripe is it's Epic Store exclusive on PC.
I have it on Xbox Game Pass, but yeah.
Oh, that's right. I forgot it was on game. Oh, and you only had to pay like $1 for it too.
Yeah, actually I had like a long time of Xbox Live Gold left, and if you subscribe, they give you Ultimate for the rest of the time of your Gold for free. So I have Ultimate for free until like July of next year.
Oh, you mean by the time the Project Scarlet launches?
And almost, yeah.
Nice.
But the humor is awesome. So the setting is you have all these different corporations that control different parts of this colony system, and it's the whole game is a huge commentary on capitalism and like runaway capitalism. So the first guy you run into outside of the guy you killed with your escape pod when you crushed him is a guy who's like accidentally shot himself in the side because the weapon he got from his company malfunctions because their weapons are horribly unreliable. And because so the name of the company is Spacer's Choice, and their slogan is "You've tried the best, now try the rest."
So it's like Harbor Freight.
Yeah, it's the Harbor Freight of space opera. Yeah.
That's awesome.
So anyway, the first like the guy like first thing he says, he's bleeding out of his side and everything. He's like, "Hey, Spacer's Choice, you tried the best. Now try the rest." Like it's like they're so married to like this corporate culture, and they're so married to like this capitalistic goal that even when dying, they still adhere to the same corporate rules, the professionalism, the corporate line, all that stuff. The whole time, everybody's like that, and it's
So it's
really funny.
so it's Idiocracy in space.
no, the people are intelligent. They're just really like, and it's crazy because you can see how like the workers are just completely like drained, and like they're just because the colony the settlement you land near is like they can tuna basically. That's what they do. Their whole town exists to can tuna. And so like everybody just works at like a cannery and then goes to the bar and gets drunk at like that's all they really do.
That's fantastic.
And like their town doctor slash surgeon is their barber as well because it's cheaper that way. And like the barber apparently like went to prison for a while and then came back, and like it's just like it's crazy, man. But the humor is so good. There's like descriptions on each of the items, and there's a loaf of bread, and it's, the description's like it tastes fresh because it was like just it's
so
it's so good.
unlike Fallout 76, there's actual like story and
Yeah,
Yes.
single player as well, so no multiplayer.
that's awesome.
But yeah, there's good story, good characters, like the dialogue's super witty, and the decisions you make, you may not even realize that they're gonna have the consequences that they have. So, for example, I went through a quest line where I was supposed to take care of. There's a guy who's like paranoid about these robots, these mechanicals as he calls them, taking over the place. And so he wants me to go take care of this one, and instead of destroying it, I repair it and save it. And my companion names it Jeremy and everything, and like so we're like, okay, well, have fun, Jeremy. And then later, like it's like an hour later that I'm playing the game. I'm in a power plant where it's full of like robot, those mechanicals that have kind of gone haywire, but they were apparently purposefully meant that way. But anyway. So I find a computer terminal, hack it, and then turn all of the robots against the other robots. Well, in the process, I come by and I find Jeremy's corpse because he was one of the robots. So the robot that I saved that was like basically, if you can imagine a rescue dog talking to you, that's how it would talk to me. Like, thank you so much for rescuing me. And then I inadvertently killed it. But I killed it because I wanted to make life easy for me, which is, again, the commentary on capitalism, right?
Well, and that was one of the big, yeah, absolutely. And I love that kind of like biting sarcasm and like, you know, just commentary on that stuff. But that was always one of the things that I hated about Fallout. What was the latest one before 76? Four, where you really couldn't be bad if you wanted to be. You know, like the dialogue choices kind of forced you down very specific paths. And yeah, I mean, you could upset people and shoot people. I mean, there were things you could do, but ultimately, like, you couldn't be a bad guy like you could be in the other Fallout games.
Yeah, like you could in New Vegas, or like even Fallout 3. Like, I'm not a big fan of it as a game in and of itself, but if you wanted to do evil things, you could really do some evil stuff. Like, hey, buy Nuketown.
Yeah. And so, like, they're, you know, the decisions, again, they're not very binary. They're not like, here's the good, here's the bad. Like, they both have their good and bad. So in the beginning part, you have to choose, through the main quest, you have to choose whether or not to route power from the geothermal plant to some town deserters who are tired of working the corporate crap and have their own little commune kind of thing going on. Or you can route the power back, like full power, to the town and help the townspeople who, you know, are working every day and doing what they can. And so you have to make that decision. Well, it's not as simple as like, well, corporate bad, you know, hippies good. It's like, if you divert it to the hippies, then turns out they have their own little selection of like, we're not going to take everyone in the town. Only certain people can come live with us. And like, they have their own kind of ways of doing things, and turns out the town owner guy gets fired. You know, he's going to get fired. He's probably going to go to prison. There's people who are going to starve because they can't get into the new place. Like, so it's not cut and dry that you did the right decision. You just made a decision. They have both negative and positive consequences to all your decisions.
So, Adam, will you be streaming any of this?
No.
Oh, where's the?
Well, I want to
enjoy it for himself.
I want to enjoy. Yeah, maybe when I do a second playthrough or something. But I want to really enjoy it from myself.
You mentioned that, and that's why I liked being able to play good and evil. So the replay value I felt on earlier, you know, Fallout games and stuff like that was, you could play it through however you wanted the first time, whatever felt right for the story, that kind of thing. And then you could just go back and be an absolute prick. Which was
or
awesome.
the other way around for me.
Right. What's the thing I wouldn't do myself, right? Yeah, let's do that.
Yeah.
You know, and that was just so satisfying that you could really impact the storyline, and it was built to be dynamic enough to accommodate that. And it is disappointing. So I know people don't like linear games, don't like sort of, but I think back to like the original BioShocks, and I think back to like that time period of when games were technically really good, but then also still had that sort of legacy, you know, walkthrough of like a linear, you know. And I know some of the people hate the scripted events and stuff like that, but it's so satisfying to go through something that was crafted by people who like are just fantastic storytellers and writers, and it's delightful to sort of go through these things. Whereas an open world, I mean, you kind of find things that are interesting, but ultimately it's so disconnected that I always feel like I have to figure out like what's the right way to do this so that it makes sense, because you can just circumvent big chunks of content.
So they have in the quest tracker, they have a section for botched quests. So like quests that you just flat out failed, or like you did something in the world that caused that you cannot complete this quest. That is an entire section in there. So even just like messing about has a huge ramifications, because like, you know, sometimes in the Bethesda games, like you'll have a quest NPC that you can beat them up or whatever, but they always get back up. You can't actually kill them.
Yes.
In this game, apparently, yeah, you can ruin it for yourself.
So it's almost more like Morrowind, where you could kill the quest NPCs.
Yeah. But talking about the decisions, like having the decision to route power, for example, from one to or the other. Like when I decided to route it to the town because I'm a horrible capitalist pig, and when I went and told the hippies that, hey, I'm not giving you power, like deal with it. She's like, hey, well, how about this? How about you go kill the town guy and I'll take his place? And so that was like a third option branched out, like a branch of my branch that didn't happen because Vanessa's playing it as well. And she chose to side with the hippies, but that's not even an option. Like the other guy's just like, well, I'm going to prison, so there's like one decision branched off into another decision. Like I chose not to kill the guy because I figured like the guards would flip out and I'd probably get murdered. But those are there, and I really like that kind of depth. Like it's so good.
Nice.
Well, it always feels, and it's a shame that this is true, but it always feels like it's a special thing when you find a game that really speaks to you and that you just thoroughly enjoy. Like nothing's annoying, it's well put together, it all just flows. Like it's a shame, but it's rare that happens.
Yeah, I mean it's I haven't really had a game like this in a while that like I had to sit there and think about the decisions I made, not just like oh, I'll choose this because I want to be an ass, or I'll choose this because I want to be good, or but like even after I make the decision and then like, okay, I want to side with the town guys, I see how it goes. But then there's like all these other dialogue options that open up from different people, and you start to realize the ramifications of your decision is more than just, oh, I just sided with these guys. Like, there's both like, well, now the town will be more productive and they'll make more money and they'll get more medicine for people and all this. But at the same time, people will still be having to work and toil away at this cannery, and like it's like having that kind of weight to the decisions is amazing.
Yeah, I was gonna say because Adam, did you ever play Detroit Become Human?
No, I didn't.
Well, if you ever played any of like those Quantic Dream,
David Cage or whatever games,
the David Cage games. Out of the 3 that he's done, four, whatever. For those that don't know what I'm talking about, this is David Cage and Quantic Dreams are the guys that did. Oh man, names escape me.
Heavy
Rain, Beyond Two Souls, and Fahrenheit or Indigo Prophecy, as it's also known as. They all have varying like consequence decisions and that kind of stuff, but I think Detroit is probably the one that makes you like really consider all your options a lot differently than like the weight of them, which is really cool. There's very few games that do that, and it's really cool to see that like you have to almost thoroughly try to think out where this game might go, and that to me is like that engages my brain. Whereas generically, I usually play games to like zone out, like that just. Or if I'm like I play JRPG, so I'm usually looking for a story, more than a mythological story. But like that to me is really cool that there's that kind of like diversity in the like, oh well, there is this option that you didn't think about.
Yeah, and the entire thing is voice acted well. And the characters, when they're in the dialogue like setting or whatever, they don't remind you of like the dead-eyed Oblivion guys. Like they actually look like they have some life to them. So
in other words, they don't look like Mass Effect Andromeda characters.
My face is tired.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I made the admission to Adam, and I don't think this is a big secret, but I used to be a huge gamer, and it was something that really drove kind of my day-to-day actions. How can I fit more gaming into my life? And I've kind of lost touch with that part of myself where I just don't enjoy it like I used to. And so my conflict there is that so many people have an interest in Linux and gaming and Proton, and the fact that it's gotten so much better, and it's driving what I believe it's driving NVIDIA to be more to play better with be a better citizen, however you want to look at that. And I benefit from that just because better driver support and stuff. But so I kind of said to Adam, like, I just don't care about gaming anymore. And and he said, well, do you think do you think it's childish, or is it, do you have a problem with gaming? And it's absolutely not that. Like, I completely see gaming as being more so than most other types of media, like an interactive, participatory thing than so many other things. And so it's not that I don't value it and see and particularly when I hear about things like this, where there's a game that actually, what I would consider, did it right. This is probably something that I would enjoy playing. So, I mean, I don't know if that's just age, I'm sort of creeping towards mid 40s, and maybe it's just I have that sort of like, how much time in the world, you start to feel that sort of like, what's important to me? What do I want to focus on now?
I think what it boils down to is like, as far as gaming specifically, I think it boils down to how you view it. To me, I view, as an example, like if I decide to drop 2 hours into the newest Fire Emblem game, I view that as 2 hours into a book, basically. But like, it depends on the medium that you compare it to. Am I going to waste 2 hours just staring at a screen watching a movie, or am I going to have an interactive story?
I feel District 2 got it right there.
And that's kind of how you look at it.
Well, and even with just normal content. So I've been going back through. I know this is so cliche, but I wanted to go back and rewatch Next Generation, Star Trek. And so those are perfect because they're little chunks and I can watch them very quickly. They're relatively familiar, so it isn't like I need to pay attention 100%. And so I can do that while I'm doing something else or I'm eating. And it's not challenging, but it's also rewarding because I enjoy them so much. Even now, there's new things that I find. Anyway, my point being that there's a lot of things that I don't now watch that I would have in the past. Movies, other media. I don't listen to as much music as I used to. I used to listen to music constantly. Now I find myself listening to podcasts and like very specific things. I watch YouTube videos. Like the way I consume media is so different now than it used to be. And games sort of fall into that same thing. It's such a big time commitment. And I think, unfortunately, games have gotten like that, where they expect you to put insane amounts of time in instead of just being able to just play it on your, like you said, 2 hours. Like if I knew I could sit down and play something for 2 hours and get a reasonable amount, like through the story or progression or something, and feel as though I've accomplished something and enjoyed it along the way, that's one thing. But when you play a game like Fallout 4 or one of these games where it's open world or you're collecting, like, it just feels like there's such and when I look at the amount of time played on some of my Steam games, I think hundreds of hours, and I'm like, what could I have done with that time?
So it's funny you mentioned that. So people had commented that Outer Worlds is like a 50-hour game, and some people's reactions was, that's it, because there's so many games on the market that are like 100 200-hour games, and people on Reddit and all were responding like, I would much rather have a 50-hour game that has good content and isn't just an empty open world than a game that's 200 hours because half of it's fetch quests.
Or very repetitive, just like
exactly. Yeah. So what you're talking about is like, you want to, I have like 2 hours to spend, maybe every other day during the week, and then when in a game like that, you can get a lot done in 2 hours. You can get quite a good ways through percentage of the game, but not just that, you get a lot of content in that amount of time, versus something like, say, any Assassin's Creed game these days, like where you're just like running around, like, and you're just doing like fetch quests. It's like, well, I just spent 2 hours and I barely did anything because it took, I had to run like to opposite corners of the map every time I had to do something.
And that's why even things like online shooters, because everything is progression based now, and things, all the battle royale games and stuff. I've tried to jump in and play some of them, but you are woefully like under, experience. Like your gear is terrible. I don't even know how to play, and I'm already getting killed before I get a chance to even do anything, because
Yeah.
everybody who plays the game plays it obsessively and has leveled to a point where I can't hope to ever catch up to them. So
Well,
Correct. Yeah.
well, in fairness, as far as the leveling, that's just, I'll be blunt, shitty matchmaking systems. That's more of a hey, Fortnite, fix your crap. But no, I definitely hear you. Like I said, gaming's a weird thing because like I used to play Warframe a decent amount, and I only recently got back into playing Warframe, and that's because of like the group of people I interact with online. That's, you know, Ryan and Michael and those guys. Like, that's one of the games they like playing. It's really weird playing it on Linux, I'm not gonna lie. But it to me, it's one of those things where you have, if it's a like a shooter, like you were saying, Eric, and it's a multiplayer game, if you're doing it with the right group of people, it doesn't feel like a waste of time.
and that's just it, right? Yeah,
Multiplayer is always better with people you know.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. And so like I know Destination Linux Network's going to do a game night. You know, Jason's done a couple with his crew, and so yeah, I could completely see that being much more interesting. Like, it wouldn't even, the game itself isn't even like the important part at that point. You know, it's
Correct.
just
Yeah.
It's the personality interaction that a lot of people
Yeah,
really tune in for.
And that's the reason like my addiction became World of Warcraft throughout my 20s. It wasn't because the game was amazing, it's because the people that I played the game with were amazing.
Mm-hmm. Totally agree. But to Eric's point, some of those games, like, you know, the Fallout, I'm gonna rag on Bethesda for this because it's a lot of their games. It's a big dumb empty world.
Yeah.
Or a lot of fetch quests. And why do I need to be able to carry every single loaf of bread in the planet, or in the game, I should say?
Yeah.
Or a fork, or a spoon, or a plate, or a silver chalice, or whatever.
Just because you're gonna need it to build like a wall of your settlement or something.
Yeah,
you know,
like
totally gonna build a wall out of kitchen utensils.
which is just, to me, is busy work. Like, the whole phenomena of like base building and stuff like that, like, it's even more distraction from like what would be a normal game, right?
So you've heard of Ark Survival Evolved?
Yes.
So I have a friend who played a lot of that. Like, I think when he finally stopped playing, it was like 3,000 hours on Steam. Like, so it was actually, the game requires so much of your time that he had to set an alarm to wake up in the middle of the night to feed his dinosaurs on the server and then go back to bed. It's like that kind of time commitment. No thanks. And that's way. If I have to wake up out of my sleep to do something, we have a problem.
I was gonna say that almost reminds me of like EVE players.
Yeah, the Eve. Yeah,
like Eve is. I've always wanted to try to get into Eve because like the stories that you're able to build around a community, like community stories and stuff, and the way those play out is so intriguing to me. But on the same note, the here's the learning curve.
Yeah. I think the best way to experience Eve without the pain is to take like a small like JPEG or PNG of a spaceship, put it in the bottom right corner of an Excel spreadsheet, and just do that.
Yeah.
Because that's basically Eve. Yeah.
Yeah, I dipped my toe in that too once, and I recognized what it was within a couple hours. I was like, yeah, it's cool, and I like space. And that's the problem, is I love those kind of space games where it's exploration and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. But I realized right away, like, this would be a bad idea for me to get in.
That game, there are literally people who have like, that game is so weird because it has, CCP literally hired an economist for that in-game economy. So when CCP does anything, they have to consult this guy to see how bad it screws up that. Like to me, that is so weird because like some of these guys, there was one guy that literally had a ship that was blown up. It was, I think, one of the Titan classes or something. Mm-hmm. And like in real world money, Like he didn't buy it, but like he built it and earned it.
It was like thousands.
It was like $35,000 or something. I'm like, oh, I would be so mad.
Well, so you read those stories about how, and then CCP encourages this type of tyranny. Like when he says he's going to do something, it's like, no, you have no time. You cannot stop saying you can do it because you can't. Like, so, like this, the podcast thing. Like we wanted to get it out like Tuesday, and I had to wait for him to set up Fireside, and I didn't want to be a dick about it and just be like, hey, did you set it up yet? Hey, did you, but I know he's busy. So anyway. All right, I'll stop talking shit then. I know, I said that on purpose. I said a potty word.
Potty word.
Well, listen, if anyone, in
makes
case
me think
anyone,
of The Simpsons, when Bart, they were coming back from church, or they were going to church, and Bart's like, why the crap do we have to go to church anyway? And Marge is like, well, you just answered your own question with that commode mouth.
Commode mouth.
Yeah, commode mouth.
That's a word my grandmother uses.
Exactly right. You just answered your own question with that commode mouth.
No, much like Matt, the people who know me, I have a bit of a dirty streak, and not nasty, but just I do like to swear. I come by it honestly. My entire family is a bunch of trash mouth, like, and not. It's funny because, as Matt does, you can use vulgarity in very creative ways. It's very expressive. It is a legitimate part of the language. I would never expose children to it or do it to offend people. But if I'm in the company of friends, like, yeah, some things are gonna go.
So the problem is like, we have policies at work where like when we're online, we have to be somewhat professional if we're in some kind of public eye, right? Because they do check all of our social media stuff.
Okay.
So
and social media, like, to be fair, like that's why I give Matt props, because like I'm too much of a chicken, honestly, to be like, yeah, just whatever, I always self-censor, and for that very reason, because people will take it out of context. And not that I have like this something to lose or whatever, but I hate the idea that someone could take that out of context and be like, oh yeah, look at this guy's, whatever. And that's just how social media works, right? I mean, that's just like this people freaking out over oh god, I can't remember the name of it now, the technology to lay someone's face over deep fakes.
Yeah,
like people are freaking out about deep fakes, and they are like, they're incredibly good now, and it's a little scary, no doubt.
Derek, to your statement of I get made fun of for not swearing, don't worry, I think I make up for it for every single Linux user on YouTube.
He does. We live vicariously through Matt. That's exactly how this works. I feed him these ideas. I'm like, you should. Aren't you upset about that? You need to go talk about this, man.
No, it's usually somebody who just pokes my buttons the right way, where I end up saying, you know what?
You know what grinds my gears?
Yeah, except for there's usually a lot more F-bombs before the what grinds my gears part.
Yeah, I know. I hear you. So, how's everybody enjoying Netrunner?
I'm using a beta of eLive.
Okay. That's not Netrunner.
Netrunner's customized Debian with Debian with a customized KDE that doesn't look like garbage. What more do you want me to say? That's what it is.
Yeah.
I mean, I like the touches that they do to it, like theming and that kind of stuff. But like ever since they got rid of the Manjaro edition, like I have a harder time recommending it.
Well, to me, if you're going to be KD centric and it is like Blue Systems behind it, and the reason that they're not doing Manjaro is because the collaboration between Manjaro and Blue Systems. I mean, I get all the reasoning, but where does that leave Netrunner? Because if you're a KD centric distribution, I mean, to be honest, there are people that use Kubuntu and other LTS type distros with KD. I get that. But I think the majority of people who are running Plasma, and I could be wrong, I feel like the majority of people running Plasma want the latest version or very close to it. And like to give me 5.14, I mean, that's many versions behind now. It just feels old, and it just does. And then couple that with Debian, and I mean, so the first thing I did was to switch up to testing so that I had newer packages. But even then, you're still several versions behind. And I guess what I'm spoiled by is Kubuntu specifically, where with backports, even already, so 1910 just got released, and Rick Mills already has 5.17.1 in backports, and it runs perfectly. Like I've never had a problem running backports. So you have the stability of the Ubuntu base, and if you're running the 6-month release cycle, you have pretty close to up-to-date packages. If you need the newest package, you go get a Flatpak or it's Ubuntu, so there's a deb package most likely. I mean, it's tough for me to go from that to something like Netrunner and feel like that it's a good experience. Whether or not they've taken time to tune things or make changes to the theme or whatever beneficial things they've done for me as a user, maybe I'm just sort of shallow in that respect where I can't get past that.
Well, the way I look at Netrunner or distros that are like LTS type versions is kind of, if they're meant more for like an appliance mentality, like this system has this one job or this system has this job. I use the term stability very loosely because no LTS I've ever used has ever been stable.
It's a fair point. They aren't necessarily. I haven't found them to be any more stable than a 6-month cycle either.
What I will say though is it gives the developers a solid base to test against. That is a valid argument. Whereas as opposed to like an Arch or a Manjaro or a Chaos or any of those type of distros.
Well, and from a business standpoint too, I think it makes a lot of sense, right? If you're a business and you're saying like we have to standardize on something, number one, you don't want the churn of every 9 months having to update, and number two, there is something to be said for the known set of sort of versions and packages, whether or not it's in practice any more stable than any given release. So I think that's really what it comes down to. And I mean, Adam lives and dies by this in the enterprise world, where it is those commitments of support and stuff like that really, that's what choices are made and how they're made.
I was gonna say, because Adam, you know this as well as anybody because of that environment you work in. If there's something wrong, you guys always want a phone call if you can't fix it.
Actually, in my case, I'm that phone call.
Well, no. Like the people that make the buying decisions want to feel like they have that support network.
Yeah. Generally speaking, yeah.
Your case is a little bit different for what you do.
Yeah. I'm the end of the line, so yeah.
But for big company like retail companies who like have a point of sale system that might be or the back end might be CentOS or RHEL. Or
yeah. Our other teams, our network team, they have vendors they can call. Our other, all of our other teams have some kind of vendor, some kind of support they can reach out to.
Mm-hmm.
Our team, my team, me.
Adam's like, my team ends with me.
Yeah, and I go to Google. I mean,
well, but I think so. It comes down to those 3 little magic letters of SLA.
SLA, yeah.
Yep.
It's accountability, right? So if your manager comes to you and says, "Why isn't this working?" and there's legitimately something wrong with the software you're using, that being able to punt that and say, "Look, I've taken it as far as I can. and it's up to the company now to provide the support we've paid for. I mean, that's why that works. I mean, that is the sort of chain of how that works.
Yeah, very much.
So on the Outer Worlds, again, Vanessa's playing. There's an object in there apparently called Tobackhorn, which reminds me of Tobacco from The Simpsons. If you remember that, where they had the hybrid tomato and tobacco plants.
Yeah.
So apparently they have the same thing, but it's corn and tobacco. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
So Derek's talking
Unfettered
about
capitalism.
Derek's talking about Arch dropping all the stuff out of base, and like how he has a video up about how to install Arch, and now everybody's like saying, "Hey, this doesn't work."
Hey, Derek,
Yeah.
hey, Derek, I hate to break it to you. It's probably time to do a new video. If you want to have how to install Arch video. I'm just saying. I'm
Or
also
just give up on YouTube. Do that too.
or
It's too much work.
or just give up on installing Arch and say go like Chakra
Windows?
or Manjaro, or like if you want the Arch.
Go buy a Mac.
Mac?
Yep, there you go. Problem solved.
Well, okay,
Yeah,
no.
where's your Catalina upgrade video? Huh?
Yeah, about that. Catalina is a running train wreck.
It is on like new Macs.
Okay, dude, this is I'm running the DOS Dude 1 implementation. You know, so just it backports all the
Yeah.
the other stuff. Catalina is a train wreck even on this thing.
Yeah.
Like high God, the one before it.
Mojave.
Yes, thank you. I was thinking High Sierra, which is the one before that. But Mojave was perfectly fine. All the Apple applications worked. All that stuff. Literally, I open iMovie now. It crashes on startup.
Yeah. I mean, I have Catalina on two machines. I have it on my work MacBook and on my iMac in the living room, and dude, it's a mess. Like and these are on like the MacBook's 2015, the iMac's 2019. Like these are recent supported models, and it's still a mess.
Like for me, it was bad enough where I went back to Mojave because of stuff crashing.
It's not that bad for me, but I can see with the
Well,
DOS patches and stuff. but-
Okay, in my case, I'm in a little different boat, but still, like
Yeah.
it got to the point where I couldn't even. Mojave was so bad, it didn't give me the folder view. It just said we can't get into get about halfway through the loading, like the load bar, and it just say can't get in. And I was like, that's a problem.
Yeah.
So I fixed that problem by literally ripping out that SSD, read out. Where is it?
Old
I
faithful.
literally had to buy Snow Leopard from Apple
Jeez.
to fix their OS.
That's $30 you won't get back.
That was 20 actually.
Oh, okay.
Still, but like the fact that I had to buy an OS from 2009, and then I had to, because then I did download all the DOS Dude 1 stuff, reinstalled Mojave, and did that. So I was like, so I had to go to Apple to fix the problem, and then I had to go to DOS Dude 1 to actually fix the actual problem.
Yeah.
So
there was when I first switched to Catalina, like when it first launched, like the day it launched, there was a bug with my 2019 iMac that anything that used the Radeon Pro in the system it was just hang. Anytime you tried to use anything that used the dedicated GPU or discrete GPU, it would just hang. And I had to wait for a supplemental update that somehow fixed it. I don't know what they changed, but I was like, you mean to tell me you released an OS that like the hardware just hangs? Like, yeah. How Catalina, this whole cycle, I was on the iOS 13 betas, the Catalina betas, like normally the Apple betas are pretty stable, pretty all right, but these last ones are just a mess. And like they made a lot of API changes, a lot of UI changes, a lot of stuff changed in iOS and iPad OS, and it took forever for a lot of my apps to even be updated to support them because they changed so much.
Yeah, like I said. Oh, hey, speaking of updates, I actually have it. Updates. Thank you. Legacy USB support injector, legacy Ethernet patch, legacy Intel IDE control patch. Those are from DOS Dude 1.
Yep.
Well, we'll be installing those to fix that problem. So, like, yeah, Eric, you're never going to see a Catalina video. Unless I get, like, a 2012 or newer MacBook, it's not going to happen. Like, there's just no effing way. And, like, I probably...
See you, Steve.
See you, Steve. Actually, what is the cutoff on the official support right now for years on the Macs, Adam?
I don't know about all of them. The MacBook Pro, I think, is 2012. It's the same as Mojave, basically.
Gotcha.
I don't think the requirements have changed since Mojave.
Okay. But like,
I mean, there's obviously like some granularity there for features and stuff, but
yeah,
general
like,
support, yeah.
Yeah, like actual like, hey, this is the hard cutoff for models.
Yeah, it's the same as Mojave as far as I remember.
All right. So nothing changed there. So it's like it should be. Usually Apple's pretty good about it. I think it's usually about 5 years for model support, give or take.
Yeah, roughly.
I mean, they might be doing a little bit longer because they never did update much after 2012. But so yeah, I don't know what I'm going to be doing for content coming up. Actually, Eric, to be brutally honest, I'm still trying to figure that one out. There hasn't been a lot of like headache-inducing Linux video titles that I've noticed, so I really don't have much to yell and scream about at the moment.
I haven't done anything on YouTube in many weeks.
Yeah, Adam, you need to fix that.
I got nothing I care to share.
Vid
That's what it
games.
comes down to,
Vid
right?
games.
Vidya games?
Vidya
No one
games.
wants to watch Vidya games.
Lies.
The metrics of the few videos I've done say otherwise.
Touche.
The video game ones have single to double digit, barely double digit. The others get hundreds. Like,
Yeah, I hear you.
Well, it's kind of a shame. So tomorrow morning I'm getting up early to record videos with Serge on LibreOffice, and I think it's really good content because it's slightly evergreen in the sense that it's not topical and timely. And unfortunately, I haven't been getting a lot of views on those, but I think it's more of a long. Well, I think it's more of a long trail kind of thing, hopefully. So anyway, I mean, I haven't been putting out as much content either. It's not for lack of having things to talk about because I just keep a long running list of topics. I mean, I keep a Joplin, note folder notebook of topics, and it's tough. It's tough because I think what people, unless you've made videos, so here's the difference. Streaming, while the technical challenges are annoying, it's easy because the content is what you stream. There's nothing else you do. With a video, I capture at least twice as much content raw as what I end up putting out on a video, and then I feel the need to try to cut out silence and ums and ahs, and I try to make it as consumable and clean as possible. And I end up finding that for a 15 to 20 minute video, I mean, it's hours and hours and hours of work. And not that I don't enjoy doing it, but I need to have that time to sit and actually do it. And the last video I did on the Dell, review, it took me a week to edit that because I would get 20 minutes in, a half an hour in, and then I would get interrupted somehow and then have to come back. And it took me a really, really long time to put that together. And I'm glad I did. I'm glad it's out there. People have enjoyed it. but it's a tremendous amount of work. And so for those people that are doing it and putting out content every day, it's a job. Like, understand that, people are putting so much effort into it.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny because there's two ways you can really go about your content. You can go about like what you're talking about, Eric, like I don't want the professional route, like what you produce for your content is very clean cut. It's very well put together, etc. There's not a lot of ums, there's not a lot of ahs, not a lot of pause. Or you can go the mad, stupid, simple route that I do, which is something barely above a live stream. Where everything I like in my, hey Nate, you gonna join? In my case, like I've just gotten so like I don't care point. Like I don't want to spend the time, because I've done the content where what you're talking about. You spend hours and hours doing the content and it gets no traction. And I just got to the point where like, you know what? I don't care. Like this is what you're going to get for the content. Like it, don't like it.
Well, and so how do people respond to the differing type of content, right? So I think everybody wants to put out things that people enjoy. Mm-hmm. And I don't want people to take this the wrong way, but I know that there's a certain group of people that are going to watch and enjoy my videos because they are interested in the same things I am. And that's great. Like, I want to make content for those people, but I also want to make things that are accessible to other people who are looking for those things. And I mean, so my most popular videos have been the stuff that I've done on installing Cinnamon on different distributions. People really like those. And I mean, I've gotten 10 times the number of views on those than I do on anything else. And I think it's just because it's, I think the audience that I already have enjoys that sort of content. But then people, when they look for like Cinnamon on Fedora, like the Fedora 31 beta, I got more views on that in the first like 2 weeks than I did on some of my videos that were out there for, 8 months, which just shows that people are interested in that.
Yeah,
but I
put a video out on that as well, and I got 10 times more views than I have subscribers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I got probably 20 times more views than I have subscribers. I mean, it's, and not that it was like overwhelmingly popular or something like that, but it was just, it's obviously something that people are interested in or looking for, because when I look, YouTube gives you the insights on how, how people are finding you. And it's definitely people searching for Cinnamon Desktop, and there isn't a lot of content on Cinnamon out there. And so that sort of just, you funnel down. So it's I don't want to just do review videos, and I'm not knocking anyone that does them, because I like to watch review videos, and I like when Colin does them or Steve does them or whoever, Derek does them. Like I want to see that content. I just feel like, what am I going to add that they already haven't? And in most cases, I feel like I'm not. So why would I do that? I mean, I guess I could if I felt like I've had some kind of insight. Like I had one put together for Ubuntu 1910, and I had tested all of them. So I was just going to do like a couple minutes on each one. But then, Popey did his streams, and, other people that I watched did streams. And I'm like, their stuff is so much better than what I'm going to put out there. Or at least they've already said everything that I would say. Why would I do that,
I get what you're saying, but sometimes it's. I'm saying this as I'm gonna sound like an old man on YouTube now.
Just now.
Just now.
Just now. Not every other time when you tell people to get off your lawn.
I leave that for you when we talk about newer tech, Nate.
Oh, that's true. That's true. Yeah. Get off my Fedora.
Yes, but for me, it's like I look at YouTube and it's just like people typically follow channels for the personality more than the content. Yes and no. Like it's a matter of how the personality delivers the content. Say what you want about certain bigger people. I'm not gonna say they got the best personalities or the most entertaining. But sometimes you just got to find it's being you but cranking it up a bit. Like to me, to steal an old wrestling adage, it's just taking who really you are and turning it up to 11. And like Eric, you know what I mean by this. Like I'm not I'm abrasive. I'll be the first to admit it. I'm just a lot more so in my YouTube content.
Because you're trying to make a point, and,
Yes.
and that's like I've said, like you balance that what are like my last. You know, so if you don't know, Matt started a Telegram group, which is highly entertaining. It's one of the few Telegram groups where you can be loose-lipped and it's fun. But it's so one of his videos where he just made some ridiculous comment about like having your head up your ass, and it struck me because it was profane and just utterly vulgar and disgusting, but it wasn't over the line, and it made the point so succinctly and perfectly that it was like you've found that balance between being like outrageous and offensive but making a point, and that's
because it's because like in that particular, like for those that want to know, like I was trying to make the point of like these people have a limited scope on their view, and how else are you gonna do that other through a tunnel? That's the only tunnel I could think of at the moment, so that's just what came out.
No, and hey, and that's the thing. Like it comes, like you said, not being so careful about editing and what you're saying, and I think that speaks a lot to the content you're producing too, right? So if you're doing commentary and opinion piece, it's a little different. It's conversational versus where I feel like a lot of the stuff I do is meant to be informational, and so people are watching it, and I need to compress and get as much information in as I can, because man, it's hard to make a short video.
Well, and
God, it's hard to make a short video.
I agree. You know how many videos I've said I only want to spend 5 minutes doing it, and I end up making like a 10-minute video. Like the thing that I found personally for me is just like those informational videos that you're talking about. People are like, we have such an ADD nature now for how people view content. Everything's like, can I do this at 2 or 4 speed to watch this entire video? I'm like, that doesn't give you the information though.
Yeah.
So like to your point, like I think the information that you give is great, and I think you cater to an audience that I don't think is served as well on YouTube because of that ADD nature of a lot of people, because you're going more in depth. Yes, you do like opinions and reviews on like distros and stuff, just but like your tutorial stuff is actually really thorough and very easy to follow. Whereas
to a fault, I think sometimes, and that's where so what I'm getting better at doing and what I wasn't good at doing in the beginning is self-editing, where if I watch some of my earlier videos, I repeat myself way too much. And even in this Dell video, I cut probably 10 minutes of me. So I go on these, and I'm doing it right now. Like I do this sort of like disconnected, like a thought pops in my head. Hey, I'll just say that. And I'll say something in the beginning, but then I'll have created a document that I'm trying to follow. And then later on, I get to that point again, and I'm like, well, it makes sense to say it now because it flows with what I put together. So then I say it again. And in the beginning, I would have just left that in there. And then I realized how repetitive that was. But I had a hard time cutting, those pieces. Whereas now I can recognize, like, what I try to do now is be as objective as possible. I try to like look at it. If I don't know this stuff and I'm trying to follow some random guy on YouTube talking about it, like, first of all, is it going to annoy me? Because if it annoys me, I'm just going to stop watching. But second of all, is it repetitive, or is it, and so I'm trying to sort of get to that point where I get to the point and, get the information out that I want, but without being robotic. That's the other thing that's tough, is that I want to inject some amount of personal experience and personality without it being cold and removed. And I know I have a deep voice that's kind of monotone, and it's already kind of droning, and yeah, it's tough, man. It's tough.
I was
Hey,
gonna
Nate.
say droning. It was more like sweet and sultry, or
Oh
maybe
my.
it's
Oh
gonna be,
Have
Well,
you considered doing ASMR videos?
yeah.
yeah,
Well, that's one of my favorite
that'll
topics.
That'll get you the money, man.
I was gonna
Yeah.
say you can do ASMR videos talking about installing various desktops on Linux.
ooh.
So
Or
I have to
you
just
go
say,
into a rabbit hole on Pi-hole and kind of keep talking about it.
my new favorite thing. Although
then,
my
like,
wife said
as-
she's having some issues with it, so
Yeah. Then
some of the
as
block lists they're a little too aggressive. I think.
then you can just start counting up like all the blocked requests in that nice like soft voice of yours. That
Just read off the DNS
Yes.
records. Yeah.
oh yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah. Okay. Well, hey, you know what? I'll tell you what. I'll do some of that for you guys. It'll be a special thing.
So this is gonna
Alright.
this is gonna be like Patrick Stewart reading the dictionary. It's just gonna be great.
Oh my goodness. Well, so I have to say that I Derek is certainly one of my favorite people because he just his content is solid. It always has been. He checks his facts and all that. So he made a comment in the comments here, and I may be of this opinion myself, and I'm not trying to call anyone out, but he said, no one subs to LTT for the information provided. Not to be a hater. And, for what it's worth, for all of us that maybe disagree with him and his approach, it's working. People like it. You can't argue with it,
People also
Well-
like McDonald's.
It doesn't mean.
And I don't mean to get us off in that direction. Like, I don't want to spend any more time on it than that. But I mean, there's definitely something there. And whether it's getting really close to the camera with your baby blues and the reflection of your ring light and whatever the formula is. Maybe it is the ASMR. Maybe it's just you get real close to the mic and talk softly.
or maybe it's being a lying sack of shit that doesn't know his own facts.
Well, yeah. But see,
And I'm not talking about LTT. Replace one of the letters with a C.
well, I know. And those were some of the people I was referring to earlier.
I know you have a line you can't cross. I don't.
Yeah, I know. Even on your stream. But see, that's the thing. So I try really hard to not. I don't know, because he says he's doing it on purpose. Watch his Linux Spotlight video. He's very, very clear about like what he does, why he does it. He's studied people. He's following a pattern, and it's successful. So I mean,
I can't. I don't fault him for that. I fault him for.
I don't either.
I fault him for the wrong information that he gives.
And you know what? I'll tell you
That
what.
is where I make the
brought this up.
difference.
So I brought this up a couple times to you guys specifically, and probably just offline. I don't know if I've talked about it in public, but when I started in tech support in IT and was a sysadmin and was just trying to I was young and enthusiastic, and I assumed everybody cared as much about the technology and the stuff I dealt with on a daily basis. So when they asked me for help, I was always like, oh, this is awesome. Like, I'm going to explain it to you. I'm going to tell you all about it. And like, here, I'll fix it. But while I'm fixing it. And what I figured out was that almost nobody cares. I mean, they don't. And so the fact that people can put out misinformation or half truths or sensationalist, I think it's because it's the entertainment component to it. Right. And it's a criticism that people make of like Linus Tech Tips and other big YouTube channels where it's like, they're usually mostly correct, but they definitely get some things wrong. And for those of us who care about that, it's like nails on a chalkboard. It's just like, oh, what the hell are you talking about? You're so completely wrong. And I know I'm not always right, and I expect people to call me out for it. And if they do, I will admit to it. But those people are just like, whatever. That's not the important part.
It's not even that. The problem is like those people don't even admit when they're wrong. There's a difference between just being wrong and going about it, and there's a difference between being wrong and not buckling and digging down and being wrong. What I found is when you call out some of these guys and they dig down at being wrong.
Right. Well, because that's not, they recognize that it's a very small number of people. And even if you, it's like being a whistleblower, right? I mean, there are always people, there's a backlash against a whistleblower who is just trying to do the right thing, and you have people who will defend a company or defend, and you think, how are they wrong for trying to point out some problem? But they ultimately, you know, their lives are ruined, they're trolled, they're threatened, you know, bad things happen to those people. And you think it definitely, there's that groupthink sort of mentality. And I don't watch him, but I know, like is it PewDiePie or PewDiePie?
PewDiePie, yeah.
Like, he's done a lot of stupid shit, right? And like questionable stuff where it's like he has a lot of influence and people defend his decisions. And again, I'm talking as an outsider. I don't even know who the hell the guy is. I mean, I know very little about him, but I know enough that when he does something stupid, the majority of people will defend him and say, you know, that what he did wasn't stupid. So
you usually get it's comedy or, you know, whatever, you know, like,
right.
But like I said, there's a difference between being stupid or doing something stupid or being wrong and digging down into that, into your almost justifying you're being wrong. Like what I find with a lot of these, I'm not even gonna say bigger YouTubers, just like people with that mentality that they can't be wrong. And that really bothers me because like certain people will, you know, when you can't even get, when you're too lazy to do a basic Wikipedia search about when something starts and you're trying to do an informational video, I take issue with that because that to me shows that you're just making lazy content.
Well, if you have to make one a day, you got to get lazy.
You can be lazy,
Something's
but
got to give.
you can be lazy, i.e. I know I am as far as my content, but you can still at least take the 30 seconds it takes to be like, oh, this is when this started, this is when this, like, you can do basic fact checking of yourself for your content. You have to put there is always going to be some type of work into your content. It's just how much. And if you're going to start editing down the stuff that needs to be factually right, that says a lot about you. At least in my opinion. Again, this is all my opinion, so whoever wants to whine and complain and bitch about it, go ahead. But like, to me, that's when you'd rather take convenience over being factually accurate or right or whatever, that says to me that you're not exactly someone I want to put any faith in.
Well, right or wrong, I think people who are trying to pursue making money off of their content will chase what's popular, and they give in. I think a lot of people start with very clear goals and ideals, and then ultimately, like we talked about, you put a lot of effort into your content, and when you don't get a response to it, or at least a response to things that you personally are proud of and feel good about, but something that you thought was maybe less so, or that you did and you kind of felt like maybe it wasn't adhering to what you thought you were going to do, but then all of a sudden you get all these views and all these new subscribers. It's a very tough thing to not give in to that temptation. I mean, I would like to believe that I'm not going to fall into that, and I don't know. I mean, I think that everybody wants to be heard. Everybody wants to be popular, and certainly if you put the time and effort into making quality content, you want an audience for that content. And I think some people are happy with the slow burn, happy with getting, you know, a subscriber here and there, and happy that their videos get some views. But I think other people, and particularly people who are trying to make money, I mean, you have to grow. And I don't know. It's a weird. It's why I try not to judge people that I see making decisions about their content when they do things like that. Because I just step back and I say, well, why would they do that? Because this is someone that I've watched for a long time, and they've made quality content. I know they know when they're making something that's good, and they've made a choice to do that. And I don't know. It's a very strange thing.
For me, I think it's more when you start compromising on factual stuff. To me, you start compromising your integrity.
Mm-hmm.
And that, to me, if you're willing to compromise your integrity, you're going to compromise any morals. You're going to compromise. You're just going to keep going down that line. Eventually, you're going to start seeing these people who do paid promotions without telling you it's a paid promotion.
Yeah.
And that, to me, is where I see those people always end up.
Well, and I need to be perfectly clear, because there is certainly a contingent of people out there that feel as though it's wrong for people to monetize their content or to try to get something back out of the work they're putting into it. And I don't begrudge anyone, like, you know, affiliate links for products that they review, you know, asking for people to donate, because it's proven that if you don't ask for donations, you're not going to get donations. Nope. It's as simple as that. If you don't remind people to subscribe, they're not going to. You know, it's little things like that some people I know look at that as being sort of, you know, not sleazy, but just kind of, I don't know, it's unseemly in a way to be self-promoting and stuff like that. But it's a very weird thing, because even me, like, I really have, I'm not looking to be like a huge YouTuber and to like, I feel like I'm doing this because I enjoy it. And the moment I feel like I'm doing it because someone else wants me or expects me to do it, and that like there's this sort of like I would be disappointing people, it's not going to be fun anymore. And I want to do it because I enjoy doing it.
I was going to say, what's your take on that, Adam? Do you think that like you should be, if you're going to make content, should it be for you and because you enjoy making it, and if you happen to make a career out of it just by circumstance or whatever, or do you feel like that, I don't want to say selling yourself like a whore, but like if that's what it takes for you to succeed, I mean, some of that's going to be a personal choice for some people, but for like your personal take, what would you?
Well, I think everybody has this kind of bizarre attachment to like vilify people who want to monetize like the arts in general. So like, you know, we have people who may make YouTube videos, or maybe they're in Hollywood, or maybe they're music or whatever, as if like these are some sort of like sacred thing that you just like, you have to do it for the passion and stuff. But you know, we don't apply those same things. Like, oh, you're a Linux user and you get a Linux job. Are you a sellout because now you're making money with Linux? Like,
yes,
no,
you are.
like,
And then you
well,
should stop
maybe.
making money, Adam. You are a sellout. You're a shill.
Dude, I am on my way to not making money. Trust me. But, but you know, it's that kind of that silly mentality. So, I mean, I don't think pursuing a career on YouTube, like if you're a certain YouTuber and you want to do it just to make money, that's fine. Like that's what you want to do. Like it's like, oh well, you shouldn't repurpose furniture because you want to sell it. You should repurpose furniture because you want to hoard it. Like, you know, like that kind of thing. Like I just think it's absolutely silly that we put these kind of expectations on, you know, video content, music content, you know, books in some cases, you know, a lot of different things, like just as if some kind, like just because it's some sort of form of art that it should just be free, just seems silly to me.
I get what you're saying, and to me, I want to be very clear. I don't think it should be free. Like, people should be compensated for the work that they do, be it music, be it video, be it movies, however you want, whatever you want to call it, the arts as a whole. They should be compensated for their work. It should be up to it. It is totally up to the creator how they should be compensated. Money, whatever, like the way they want to go about it is perfectly fine. And again, this is personal, personal view. So like my view's a little skewed. I'll be the first to admit it. That if you're willing to sell your integrity, that says a lot about you, though.
Yeah, but that applies in anything, not just.
Well, no, that's what I'm getting at. Like, if you're willing to sell your integrity in the arts, if you're willing to sell your integrity, you know, with personal relationships, etc., that says a lot about you as a person. So, why the thing that it's something that just in life I don't understand. Let alone, let's just not specifically talking about the arts or YouTube, is people who are willing to sell their integrity for stuff, advancement, career, throwing people under a bus, you know, whatever, like call it whatever you want. There just seems to be this weird mentality of like, you'll step on, throw everybody, you know, you will do whatever it takes to reach your goal. And some, you know, the ends justifies the means. I met my goal and I don't care who I had to step on to get there. That's a great thing for some people. You know, some people take that as drive, ambition, you know, whatever. They met their goals in life. To me, it also shows that you don't give a damn about anybody but yourself. You have no compassion. You have this weird like worldview of like that goal is the only goal and fuck everybody else to get to it.
So I think that's more of a symptom of a greater problem in just the system in general. Like, so we do live in a capitalist society, right? Where, you know, gaining money is the measure of success by many people. Like you said, you know, it's like, it doesn't matter that he's selling his integrity. Like whatever he's doing right because he's making money. So like our judge of like how well someone's doing in life is almost always tied to not the good works that they do, but to their compensation for those good works. And, you know, the idea that like someone to get ahead has to sacrifice their integrity is more of the problem than the person doing the sacrificing their integrity to begin with. But people look at that and they're like, well, the system exists as it is, and so let's just vilify this guy for doing it, even though he's just trying to get ahead in a system that goes with that.
I don't know that that's a universal truth in a capitalistic society. I mean, I would say a capitalist society is no more corrupt than any other system of government, number one. But I understand what you're saying. Man's got to eat. So, you know,
yep.
Randy needs his cheeseburgers, right?
Yeah, I mean, if we had a system that existed where integrity was valued so much, why would we have prostitutes, right?
I would just like to say, good job on the Trailer Park Boys reference there, by the way.
Yes.
I'm not admitting or denying anything. So, maybe we just did. So, what I'm saying is, I think if you're playing the short-term game, honor and integrity don't matter. If you're playing the long-term game, they do matter, because if you build up a reputation of being someone who is not trustworthy, who doesn't do the right thing, that lies, you know, those chickens are going to come back to roost at some point in time.
Karma.
Potentially,
right.
Yeah. But
no, it does happen.
I mean, yeah, it does happen.
That's the way the universe is designed. If you reap what you sow.
But I've seen so many instances where people step on others to get what they want. Then they get so big or so successful that any repercussions don't matter because they're too big.
Yeah, but then if you look at them later,
I think it does.
And what Nate's point is sometimes those people do get to that point. They're too big to do anything at that current moment. But eventually, at some point on the way down from success, they're gonna get hit by the karma bus, more or less. Is that fair to say? What you're? equating, Nate?
Yeah, pretty much.
I'm-
I've seen so many instances in my personal life where people have done horribly unethical, horribly terrible things, been rewarded for it, and have absolutely no recourse for it.
But I think you're looking at the short term. I think if you look at the long term, and I know this, we don't think in terms of decades, but I think we have to look in terms of decades and lifetimes. Those people, they do reap what they sow eventually. I think that's almost an always. If not, they may seem still successful on the outside, but I think that inside, I think they realize what a sham they are, and they do regret. So,
But
is it the justice you want? Probably not.
But
I
do
do think
they?
justice
But
is
do
always
they
served.
when a society looks at them like, well, this guy is terrible. Like he's stepped on people to get where he wants. He's like potentially ruined other people's careers or other people's lives. But when they look at him, they're like, but he's worth millions. He's worth billions.
But-
Maybe he's doing it
But,
right.
But I think it depends on your audience. Who's your audience? Who are you trying to please?
Like just in the general public. Like
But I'm not trying to.
you,
I'm not trying
you
to
could
please
ask
everyone.
loads of people that their measure of success is wealth.
Their measure of success is to be Bill Gates. Their measure of
Yeah.
success is to be
but
Larry
I don't-
Ellison.
Sure. If that is your measure of success, then that is your measure. But I just don't think there's any honor in that measure of success.
For-
And that's
for
not
some-
how I will choose to live my life.
For some people, honor, integrity, and all that stuff matter far more than the million, billion. Some people are like the Linus Torvalds, where they're just content where they are. They might make a buku amount of money, don't get it twisted, but they're doing what they want to do, and they just happen to get paid to do it.
Yeah. No, like I'm personally a person with like an uncontrollable conscience in that every little thing bothers me. If I do anything like that I potentially think might hurt someone, I just won't go down that road. But
Right. You're
I'm also
conscientious.
not wealthy. I'm not successful. I'm not,
But why do you place?
but that's what I'm saying.
Have
It's
you-
like
have you-
I
have you
don't
watched-
place that value, but I'm saying other people, like
Sure.
even my own parents, right? And they're like, wow, you're making good money. You're doing well for yourself. You're doing well in life. It's like,
Right.
and
that
never
is
mind
a superficial way. That's a
Yeah.
superficial way of
Oh,
looking at
I
life.
agree.
Watch the movie. Anytime someone does that, you should tell them, you need to watch the movie It's a Wonderful Life.
Only
I'm
you.
serious.
only I get what you're saying, Nate, but only you would make that reference to the Wonderful Life.
It's actually
Yeah.
it's probably my favorite movie of all time. So,
It's a good movie.
Yeah, it is.
but if you look at no man is a failure that has friends, right? If you have true friends and like friends that you've held and you have honor and integrity and you live life the best you can, even if life kicks you in the teeth and knocks you down and you lose things, you lose everything or life doesn't turn out. If you have friends and you have true friends, you're not a failure. And I think that we forget, in our society, our consumeristic society, which by the way is why I like Linux, but that's a whole other side. Just a whole other side piece. But if we really focus on what really matters, which is the people, the community, the people around, what really matters is the Adams and the Erics and the Steves, your very own, and even you, Dark One, even you. But
Well
if we really
played,
focus
sir.
on-
Well played.
Both ladies
if
and
we really
tramps.
I
focus on
just
those-
thought he forgot for a second. I didn't.
No, I wasn't. That was intentional. But if we do that, then I mean, all of society is better. But you're not gonna be able to change society, with hopes and wants. You're gonna have to change society by action, and which is living the life that really matters, and whatever the
But I
consequences.
gotta wonder, like, do a lot of people look at it that way because they don't have the wealth? Like, because if you aren't wealthy, right? And this is completely, just a hypothetical. Like, if you're not wealthy, then all you have is your integrity and your name. But if you don't have to worry about whether or not your integrity is intact because you have the money, then it's like whatever. Like, you know, I guess you see what I'm saying? Like,
yeah. I see what you're saying, because it's like you get like, I don't want to harp on Bill Gates because like you know, but like he's such an easy scapegoat sometimes. You can look at like how Bill Gates got to where he got.
yeah.
He literally threw every tech company sleazy thing, like anything under the sun he could do to make a buck, he did. And now he's trying. It's almost like he threw in his in his early 20s and all that stuff. He threw his integrity out the door, and now he's trying to compensate for it through humanitarianism. That's how I view Bill Gates. And if that's how you
Now he
want
has both.
to make up for selling his integrity earlier in life.
But if you look at like the way the media and other people portray him now, they're like, yeah, he was a jerk, but look at all the great things he's doing now. So now not only does he have the wealth, but now he has the perceived integrity and everything else.
But does he?
So he just wins.
But does he feel like himself? Does he feel like that's where it boils down to every individual, and you know, I think to Nate's point,
But maybe in his mind, he was doing the right thing the whole time. Not necessarily to gain wealth, but like he made the
I don't think
moves
so.
he thought was right.
I think there are some universal truths out there. My opinion. I think there's some universal truths out there, and I think that he is probably. I don't know how bad of a person he was. I didn't read his books. He couldn't have been as bad as Commodore was in the '80s. So, they were bad, and they deserve to go out of business as far as I'm concerned. But as much as I like my Commodore 64, but I think that regardless, if he was as bad as he was, then there's going to be some internal torment, and it might be his overcompensation now might be how he's dealing with that, but that doesn't mean that he is at peace inside. And that's really what matters, is, are you at peace inside? Are you at peace for who you are? That's
I was gonna say, you know, to Nate's point, you know, as an example, like I catch a lot of flack in my comment section on YouTube. And, you know, people are like, oh no,
You?
not at all, never.
I'm sorry. I'm gonna have to fact check you on that one.
Yep, Snopes.
Yeah. Look at the Librem 5 versus Pure versus PinePhone video. You'll
Oh,
see.
no, I've seen it.
You know, it's people think what they see on camera is not me, because I think people are so used to a mask and a facade on an online platform that someone who's just like, hey, here's me, here's how it is, here's how I see it, and if I'm wrong, I'm wrong, I don't give a damn. I think that's such a rare thing to find online now. Like yeah, I'm blunt and abrasive about it. I'll make new quorums about it, but I'm also blunt and abrasive in life. So like,
It's your brand, baby.
it's not even just about a brand. It's about, I think people are so used to putting on masks and facades and everything else for other people.
I'm doing it right now.
I'm sure Adam has plenty that he wants to say right now that he's not. But, you know, like on an online, like I don't view, like I said in one of my videos, YouTube should be a representation of you, like a real you, not like some bullshit, you know, fake I'm always happy, or like some perceived, you know, it's like these people who travel the world and all or the Instagram models, and you only see all the good pictures, but you don't see like the 9,000 shitty ones that they took to get that one good picture.
Yeah.
I'm more of about, hey, here's the good, here's the bad of me, but I still, to me, I'm at peace with myself about knowing my pros, my cons, my flaws. And I think a lot of people can't do that internal check on themselves to be like, that's how I am. And especially online, because they feel they have like, I have like 1,600 subs, give or take now. I love my subs, but on the same note, I am who I am, and I make no qualms about it. And You either like it or you don't. You don't like it, there's the unsub button. Use it.
Hey, I have a Linux question.
Why would we talk Linux when things called Linux Talk?
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
What's
I
up?
know. So, Plasma users, I know there's at least another one here. I've noticed that recently
Yes.
Dolphin, I have to refresh a lot of times to get new files to show up. Do you see that?
No.
No,
What I
no.
do see though is
So, like,
sometimes
for example, like when if I have Dolphin open to a folder and I create a new file in another program and I go back to Dolphin, it's not there. And if I hit F5 to refresh, then it is there. And I don't see that in any other file manager.
Nope, because I just created a new folder within my home directory and it just slid all the folders over and there was
Well, no. I'm saying I'm not. If I do it directly within Dolphin, yeah, it'll show the file. But if I like I was in a image editing app, I saved a file using the save file dialog. I'm gonna have to see if maybe this is a GTK thing when it's saving through the GTK file manager or file.
So what you're talking about, that's an intermittent problem that I've had, but it's
Okay.
not a regular thing. So I just tested that when I was in the terminal now, and I just did a touch whatever
Mhm.
and I'm watching it, and it made it.
Hmm.
That so it's an it doesn't happen regular enough for me to be annoyed by it, but it has
Okay.
happened. And I don't know, it hasn't happened for a while.
Hmm.
The problem that I have with Dolphin, it's also not, well, it was common for a while, is it would just start gobbling up memory. So I'd have to kill it every once in a while. But I mean, I would have like, I don't know, 8-10 tabs open, and then I have to just start over. If I'm not
So-
careful, my tabs multiply. It's not my fault. They just happen.
So here we go with Nautilus being a lesser file manager that I always sort of feel that way because it has so few capabilities compared to Dolphin and Nemo and Kaha and all that. But there's some things that they do in there. So one of the things that drives me crazy is I look at Dolphin as being like a tabbed browser. And one of the things I do in a web browser all the time is if I close a tab, I want to do Control-Shift-T and get that tab back because I didn't mean to close it. And Dolphin does not do that. If you close a tab, it's gone. You have to open a new one and then navigate. And I've noticed that in Nautilus,